All right, last year Rode released the RØDECaster video, and they were kind enough to send one out to me to test and review and make some content on. And well, life events and family events and work just kind of took priority kind of the second half of last year. So mid-March, we're now here. We're talking about the RØDECaster video, but they've made some firmware improvements to it. I think it's a better product now than when it was released. So what I want to do in this video is I just want to talk about a couple of things that I really like and a couple of things that I would like to maybe see continued improvement for future firmware updates, or maybe a version 2 or a pro version or something like that. So let's start off with some of the positive, and we can end the video with some opportunities of improvement. The first thing is the fact that it's an all-in-one solution and it's really easy to use. So it being an all-in-one solution, you've got audio, you can build different scenes, all that, all within the RØDECaster video, and in conjunction with the Rode Central app. It is so easy to configure your scenes, and scenes are essentially like bringing all different inputs onto the program feed. So your program feed is like what your audience is seeing. And this is really cool because you can really start to customize different views for your audience. So like, for example, I created a scene to bring a guest on via like a FaceTime chat or a Google Meet or something like that. And it's just a really cool way of having a more engaging live stream. But there are a number of different ways to configure it. A full screen of your desktop, so your audience can see a product page or something, a website that you bring up to help aid your live stream to talk about whatever you're talking about. And it's really easy to configure that stuff. I used to use OBS with an A10 Mini, and the A10 Mini was fine for doing simple, camera switching. But every single time I opened it, there was some kind of problem, some kind of technical issue, and to the point where I was like, this isn't worth it. A buddy of mine, I would text him every single time I was trying to figure it out, and he would just laugh and just be like, yeah, you always run into problems. Probably user error, but it's not something that I want to spend really any time trying to figure it out. RØDECaster Video makes it really easy because you can configure everything all within RØDECaster Video or the Rode Central app. I like using the Rode Central app. It's just a lot easier for me to look at a big screen. And then you can stream straight from the app, straight from the device itself. So you don't need to use OBS or Ecamm Live or any of these other ones. You can stream directly from the RØDECaster Video. For me, the ease of use in the all-in-one solution is probably like the biggest reason why I love the RØDECaster Video. Now it also has really powerful audio features as well, and really powerful preamps, same from the RØDECaster Pro 2. But honestly, I usually just run audio directly into camera just for simplicity's sake. But if you wanted to have a different audio source, or you wanted to use an SM7B and don't have a cloud lifter or something, you don't actually need a cloud lifter with this because the preamps are so strong. And they actually have like a preset for the SM7B, which does sound really good. I just honestly prefer running audio directly into camera because it's a simpler setup for me. But if you run audio separately, you can do like frame offsets and stuff to make sure that your audio and your video matches, so there's no delay or out of sync video to audio. Now, another thing that's really cool is you can actually record to an SSD via USB out. And this is really cool. There's a couple of different ways of doing it. You can record just your program feed, and what this does is records exactly what your switching and everything is shown. So like, the easiest way to think about it is like, it records exactly what your audience is seeing on a live stream. And so this is really cool if you wanted to have a backup of the live stream to keep locally on your computer, or if you're not live streaming but you're doing a podcast and you're switching a podcast for a client, and you just want to use the program feed. Basically, that's a really easy way to like get a file out into them really quickly, especially if you're on top of the switching. But if you make an error or something and you switch to camera 2 or camera 3 or something, it's a good idea before you start hitting recording to enable ISO recording. And this basically records a separate file for each input, so that if you make a mistake when you're switching for the podcast or whatever, you can go back in and layer up all of those inputs and start making edits and tweaks to make your podcast or the episode or whatever a much more seamless and professional looking edit. That's really cool that you get the ISO recordings, and this is really helpful for, if you're recording a podcast, for example. But typically what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to record internally to all of the different cameras as well, so that number one, you have backups and you have a higher quality version, whether it's 4K or 6K or whatever you're recording in, as opposed to the HD files that the ISO recording spits out. But one thing would be really cool, and I think it's a good segue into like maybe possible firmware improvements, if possible, is when you trigger record on the RØDECaster video, to somehow be able to trigger record on different cameras and maybe identify, in each individual input is say like trigger record over HDMI or something. I don't know if that's possible, but it'd be really cool to be able to trigger record to do that, so that your ISOs are recording, but also your cameras start recording at the same time. And this would just make it a lot easier if you are using those ISO recordings, but you maybe want to replace those with 4K versions to be able to punch in more or just have more clarity, or whatever the case may be. It'd be cool to do that. If that's not possible, what would be really cool is if the RØDECaster video was able to accept timecode and support timecode, so that all of the ISO recordings in the program feed and all the cameras that are using timecode boxes are a lot easier to sync and post. So that would be kind of a cool improvement, just especially for like recording podcasts and stuff where you're switching on the fly, but you may want to have a little bit more flexibility in post and you're not necessarily live streaming. So that'd be cool. Now, when it comes to live streaming, what would be really cool is if the RØDECaster video could somehow upscale to 4K, especially for folks that have really fast internet connections. Now, I know the RØDECaster video is already doing a lot of heavy lifting and there's a lot of processing power that the RØDECaster video is doing, but it'd be cool if it could somehow, when connected to a computer, have the computer, help with the upscaling and do the heavy lifting of the upscaling, because typically with YouTube especially, whatever their algorithm is seems to treat 4K deliverables a lot better than HD deliverables. So it'd be really cool if somehow the RØDECaster video could, in conjunction with a computer or something, do a 4K upscale to the stream. I don't know if that's possible, but it'd be really cool if you could do that. Another thing that'd be really cool on a live stream is to be able to show comments on a live stream. I know there are other third-party software apps that allow you to do that, but it'd be really cool if you could do that all within the Rode Central app. Another thing would be cool is to easily include guests. So right now what I'm doing is I'll just send like a Google Meet to whoever I want to have on the live stream, and I have HDMI out. So I'm basically showing my desktop on the live stream, and I have to go into full screen mode, and it's kind of a clunky process. It'd be really cool if somehow in the Rode Central app or something, you could send a link out to whatever guest that you want to have on, and they can just kind of join the stream that way. Again, don't know if it's possible, but it'd be really cool if they could do that. Now, in a future model, it would be really cool to have a 4K version of the RØDECaster video. I know 4K increased costs and all that, just with parts and processing and all that. So I know it would probably be a more expensive product, but I think there would be clientele out there that would utilize this for 4K live streaming. I think 4K is really kind of becoming more of an industry standard instead of a luxury, and now we're into like 6K and 8K capture. So 4K is kind of becoming the norm, and it'd be really cool to see a future version of a 4K version of this. And additionally, what would be cool is if there were like a RØDECaster Video Pro or something, to include one SDI input, because there are a lot of cameras out there that just have SDI outputs and that's it. And instead of having to use a converter box, like I like to live stream with the Blackmagic Pixel 6K, and it only has an SDI output. So it'd be really cool to be able to have an SDI input on the RØDECaster video. And that's it. Those are pretty much my only complaints. I think I've seen some complaints about the price tag of the RØDECaster video, but it's, to me, it's like a perspective thing. Like, it's, if you look at it just as a video switcher, then yeah, it's an expensive video switcher, but it's much more than just a video switcher. And that's what, that's kind of the perspective that, you know, people that ask me about it, that I give them. It's way more than just a switcher. And once you start seeing it from that perspective and really start seeing the power behind the scene builder and the scenes and all that stuff, then you get to kind of see why it's worth the price tag, in my opinion. So hopefully this is helpful. Definitely a different topic than videos on my channel, but I am pretty stoked on the RØDECaster video, and it's encouraged me to want to live stream and be able to live stream a lot more on this channel because of its simplicity. So thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.